Welcome to the Art of Services video series around cybersecurity risk management. My name is Ivanka Menken and today's conversation is with Mr. Peter Westerveld. He was the co-founder of Sincerus, but currently he's the founder of cybersecurity consultancy firm Sherman Consultancy. Their focus is on security advice, connecting safety and security, and making security work for your business. Peter and I actually used to work together back in the Netherlands, well, about 20 years ago. And I'm very excited to hear the rest of his journey in cybersecurity risk management. If you like Peter's approach to cybersecurity and would like to reach out to him, he's available on LinkedIn, and I will put his contact details, including his email address, in the description below. Enjoy this conversation. Welcome, Peter. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, tell me, you used to be the co-founder of Sincerus. Did that also have a cybersecurity or an IT security focus, or did you move away from that business to start up your security consulting firm?
No, Sincerus was focusing only on security. They delivered services on a technical security side and on the governance side, so you could combine all those services to a sort of one-stop security shop for all businesses.
Oh, cool. And like when we met 20 years ago, it's over 20 years ago now, it's I think 23 or something, which is really, really scary. You didn't have that strong security focus. So what changed? What was the moment in your career? What happened that you had this epiphany to go, cybersecurity is my path. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, well, that was an event in the end of the 1990s. In that period, at that time, I was employed at the national headquarters of the Dutch Land Registry as a problem manager, and I was also responsible for the coordination of major incidents. And it was then when there was an outbreak of the I love you virus. Maybe you can remember. There was a virus that spread like an oil slick around the world, and in just a day it caused major damage to large companies and governments. So when it came to the news, I had to make the decision to shut down the email server. Now, that wasn't a very big problem, because at the time I believe only 25 people at the headquarters could mail to the outside world. But that wasn't the issue. You can't compare it with today, but the fact that an 18-year-old German student had the world in his grip and could do so much damage just by programming some code, and most important of all, misusing the behavior of people, that intrigued me. And that's the reason why I started to dig into security and specialize myself in that area.
Yeah, and what area of specialization? Because when you talk about cybersecurity, it's a very broad field. I mean, there's people that say, "Oh, I'm in cybersecurity, but they're really in cryptography," or "I'm in cybersecurity, but they're really in forensics," or "I'm in cybersecurity, but they're really at the strategic or the people side." So, what is your speciality and why?
Well, currently, the last past years, I did a lot of projects to implement SIM and security monitoring into businesses. Security information and event monitoring is a process wherein you gather all information from critical systems in your business, and you correlate those events that happen on those systems, and you analyze it so you can discover hacks or malware outbreaks in a very early stage. My goal is to act more proactively on security. All the old security countermeasures are reactive. They only react to something that they see. And my goal is to implement processes and systems that react proactively, that you can stop a security incident before it even started.
Okay, so how
we're still a long way from that. We have a lot of things to do, but we can't stop working on it to achieve it.
Mm. I was talking to another lady this week, and she was focusing a lot on artificial intelligence in relation to
Hmm.
cybersecurity. So if you're talking about proactively monitoring or proactively catching cybercrime even before it happens, would that involve AI? Would that involve a technology, or is that more on the
Yeah.
people side of business?
Well, both, both. AI is also a very good development in our area. I think we can use that to be more proactive, as I explained earlier. But we can't deny that. Well, it's a cliche, but people are the weakest link, and we have to constantly make the users of information systems aware of the risks that they take, and how to act on the risks.
So when you talk about the risks of cybercrime, is that different from the risks in IT security in general, or are they the same, or are they a subset?
Well, I would say there's no much difference between the two of them. There's no official definition of the two. No official definition of information security or of cybersecurity. You can see them as two different and separate worlds, but everything's connected.
Yeah.
You can't see them. Sorry, you can't see them as two different worlds, because everything's connected. The dependence of business processes on the information systems, internet connections, availability of data, integrity of data. It's all immense high in our 24/7 economy.
Yeah.
So I don't care if we name it cybersecurity or information security or IT security, as long as we make it an integral component of our businesses and lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Just give it a name. Just deal with
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
when did we start talk about cybersecurity? Because you've been in the game since '99. So when
Mhm.
did we start talking about cybercrime and cybersecurity, and what brought that about?
Well, I think the general awareness about cybersecurity started just after the millennium. Um, the Council of Europe created it in 2001 in cooperation with the UN, the Convention on Cybercrime, also known as the Budapest Treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Australia also ratified this treaty,
Yeah.
and it gives the countries a common basis for tackling cybercrime. But if I see how easy we give up security for innovations, new gadgets, new functions on our smartphones, or interactive lamps, or internet-connected refrigerators, and so on and so on, cybersecurity and cyber security awareness are still in their infancy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It always baffles me when I see on Facebook, for instance, that people are saying like, "Oh, those quizzes where they go like, oh, what is the first date of your what is your birth date, and what's the name of your mother?" And then in
Yeah,
the second post they go like, "Oh, by the way, I'm going on holidays next month," and I go like, "Really?"
yeah. So
Yeah. So
nobody's home.
yeah, exactly. Like, hello, everything's open. So obviously,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of work to be done, not just in the IT industry around awareness for cyber crime and cybersecurity, but also in the general public for being aware and being more savvy about it. I mean, we don't leave our doors unlocked, we don't leave our doors open, but like you say, you know, as, when there's a new shiny new gadget on the smartphone, they go like, oh yeah, here's all my data.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
So
big problem.
yeah. So let's talk a bit about myths around cybersecurity, because to
Hmm.
me, before I started looking into cybersecurity, I always had this idea that it was an IT problem only. If
Hmm.
you had virus protection and you had good firewalls, you were good to go. So that to me is my myth that I've busted for myself. But talking to businesses, I'm not talking to mums and dads and the general public, but talking to businesses, what is the biggest myth that you hear out there all the time where you go, seriously, that has to be
Yeah.
stopped?
Well, I'm sorry to say that, but it's still, you're right. It still is that cybersecurity is an issue for the IT department. That's the biggest myth that has to be busted. And well, 50 years ago, I published an article in the Netherlands with this title, and I just added the words "not only" in it. The business owner of the data, the business is the owner of the data, and the business processes have the greatest dependence on safety of data. They must set the requirements for security, not the IT department. The IT department has only a facilitating role. Also, the users have a crucial part in security of data and business processes. It's very important that if you want to implement a proper security policy or a security organization, you have to approach people, process, and technology. For instance, if you invest tons in technical countermeasures like firewalls, IDSs, you name it, and you forget to implement a security process, a security management process, or you don't increase security awareness of your users, then all those investments in technology are worthless. You always have to focus on those three: people, processes, and technology.
Yeah. But I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started recording this interview. When we met, we were both working as IT service management people in the company. You were the problem manager. I was part of the change in implementation team. We've been talking about people, process, partners, and technology for decades. So how is this different? Like when we talked about service management and service management implementation, we talked about the cultural change. We talked about group dynamics. We talked about creating awareness. We talked about having that service focus and a service management mindset for IT to be part of the business. So how is this different, or is it just the same in different clothes?
Well, I think it's more or less the same. It's a very young part of our world, security, and IT is a very young part of our world, but security even more. And so, well, for instance, if you look at aerospace, in the past century, at the very beginning, I think it was 1910 or something, that we started to fly with airplanes. But it took until almost 1950 when there was an international agency that took care of safety of flying. And so why I don't think we just need the time with the security to get it more in our genes, to make it a part of our mindset that everything we do, everything we make, we have to take care of the security of those services.
But do we have the time for that? Because I mean, when you're saying it has to be part of our DNA, it has to be part of our genes. I don't think we have the luxury of 40 or 50 years before we can really take this seriously.
No, you're right about that. Because our world is developing a lot faster than it did in the 1910s and 20s and so on. So we really don't have the time to wait 50 years to take up security seriously. No, we have to be now. That's why sometimes I feel like a missionary to talk about security when the business side in the company developed a new service, and I thought, oh, hey, did you think about those security components to build it in your business, in your business process? And they think, oh no, I didn't. Well, maybe we should. Okay. So yeah, it takes some time, but we can't stop to make it clear to everybody, and yeah, we have to really make an effort to get it in our DNA and in our scene. Look, in our houses, we don't leave our house without locking the door. And the same thing is with IT and business process.
Yeah. So it really has to be accelerated, that people are aware of this,
Exactly.
of the need for security. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So how can we help businesses to do that? Like, what's the biggest risk that businesses run at the moment?
Well, yeah, as I said earlier, you have to look at people and the processes and the technology. But if I pick one out, I think the biggest risk still is the people in your company. The people in your company are crucial in the business processes, but also they're crucial in recognizing risks and acting on them. Businesses can't afford not to invest in security awareness programs. And I know security costs money. It won't get you anything. It won't make a recurrent revenue. It only costs money. But if you not invest in security awareness programs to increase the security awareness of your staff, well, it's a cliche, but it's still true. People are the weakest link.
Yeah.
So make sure that risk is mitigated.
Yeah. And that's really at all levels of the organizations, from the intern all the way up to the CEO.
Well, yeah, especially the CEO. Look at the CEO, and if he doesn't take all the security countermeasures seriously, then why should the people on the workflow do it?
So it's leading by example. That's what you're getting at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He has to show his commitment.
Yeah. So there's a strong case then for executive education, like VPs, CEOs, CIOs, like that really, the leadership of organizations need to be aware of their vulnerabilities. They need to be aware of their risks and how they can be prepared to act when something happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard something today, and I don't know if this is true or not, because I haven't fact checked it. But this was told by a person who sells cybersecurity insurance. That the Pentagon put out an award, like a competition. Like, if you can hack into the Pentagon, we'll pay you $100,000, but you have to tell us how you did it. And apparently over 300 people actually hacked into the Pentagon and claimed their reward, as young as 10, 11, 12-year-olds. So that was probably my biggest thing, where I went like, oh, 300 is a lot of people. So you would think that companies like the Pentagon would be really, really secure. But that kids that young have the savviness to be able to hack and to get through firewalls and all that sort of stuff. So I guess what I'm getting at is, like, are we behind the 8 ball so much that we're just focusing on like the grown-ups and the people in business, but we really should bring it back to the school systems where people begin with that awareness? How do you see that?
Yeah, computers came into our lives, and when we were young, there were no computers. We played with toys like cars and dolls. In the Netherlands, there's now a discussion to bring programming to preliminary schools, to kindergartens. Because the young, they grow up in a world where the dependency of computers and the internet is very large. So I think, yes, you can't start young enough to develop our children in this world, but also make them aware of the security risks there are.
Yeah. So what kind of trends are you seeing at the moment in cybersecurity and in cybersecurity risk management? What's happening out there?
Well, a lot is happening out there. But I see one of the things I see rising as a big risk is in the field of Internet of Things, in IoT. We connect everything to the internet. As I said earlier, refrigerators, watches, cars, lamps, cameras, TVs, everything, and that's all great. It has all a great functionality. But they also have very poor security. In 2018, over 7 billion devices are connected to the internet. and most of them have still the standard username password combination. Well, this is a massive potential digital army that can perform DOS attacks, for instance, to take down the entire internet. Last year, the entire east coast of the United States suffered a DOS attack that took down major services like Amazon, for instance, for a few days. So if we don't take security serious in new innovations and prefer functionalities and marketing over risks, this will still stay as a major risk. That's the Internet of Things and the unlimited connection of things to the internet and the lack of security in there. That's what I see as a very, very big risk in the coming years.
So what would your recommendation be? So how could people, how could organizations, how can business owners protect themselves more? You know, because we all have these connected products. We all have these, you know, things that connect to the internet. So how can we protect ourselves?
Well, it starts at the innovation departments in companies. We have to do more security by design, and security has to be more part of the development and innovation of a new product. It starts at the beginning. If you build in security later, then there will always be vulnerable spots. So you have to very much use security by design in developing new innovation.
Yeah, but what if we purchase these products to be used in our business? What can we do to protect our business assets?
Yeah, well, one thing is that you test it regularly. Always do penetration tests or vulnerability tests of your new products. Do risk assessments on a regular basis. So you keep in track with all new developments in security in your business. So you can't say, well, last year I did a vulnerability check or a risk assessment. The security world is developing rapidly. And so what we test today and find safe today can be very vulnerable tomorrow. So to do every day a test every day, that will be a little bit too much, because we have to work on a normal business processes, of course. But do a regular test of your information systems and your data, and be aware of the risk that you have.
Yeah. And then beyond the products that we buy, I mean, the day that we record this is the 1st of June. So we've had a full week of GDPR regulations. You live in the Netherlands, so that's a very real thing for you. How is the GDPR, because that's all about data protection and personal information, how is that related to cybersecurity and what you said earlier, the Internet of Things? How are those connected?
Well, at first, privacy and security are two different things, but they are still very much related. GDPR can be affected by cybersecurity. If a data exfiltration took place or a security breach is discovered in accordance with the GDPR, you have to report this. In the Netherlands, we have to inform the Privacy Data Authority. I'm not sure where in Australia you have to report the incident, but so yes, they're very much related.
We only just, like, it's only in 2018 that it's mandatory reporting for security breaches. So it's happening.
Yeah, well, we waited 2 years in the Netherlands to take all the measures on GDPR in the last weeks before it was mandatory. So we have time.
Yes, but so there's definitely a connection, but it's not the same, because I do see, you see blog articles where people talk about GDPR as if it is cybersecurity, but they're not the same. It's privacy versus security. But if you're not secure, then your private data is not
exactly
safe.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's it like 7 days after the implementation of GDPR? Life never going to be the same again? Or was it sort
Yeah,
of like, yeah.
yeah. I compared it a bit with the Millennium Bug. I can remember that we stayed up all night in 2000 to watch the world explode, but it didn't happen. It's a very good thing. GDPR is a very good thing, and it was about time that we did something to make the highest management in companies aware of their role in security. But I saw companies making themselves GDPR ready in the last weeks before the deadline. I think that's well, you have to do this every day. You have to be aware of the privacy risks that people are exposed to. So in the last few days, we received a lot of emails about giving your consent to businesses for using your email address, for instance, to get a newsletter or something like that. So I see that we took privacy very seriously in the last few weeks, but I really hope that's not a one-day fly. I really hope it's not something temporary, and we do this from now on every day.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's similar to what you were saying about security and cybersecurity. It has to become second nature. Like there is no choice anymore. This is the new normal. This is what we have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just part and parcel of doing business and being alive in this era.
Yeah,
pretty much. Hey, is there anything that you would like to share that I didn't ask, and that you sort of go like, that's really important for people to know and understand?
Oh, well, I think you always have to be well, how do I say it? I think it's important for people to be aware, be aware of the risks, that you recognize malicious emails or something like that. Don't trust the mails from your bank. Don't trust every company that or every email you get and ask you for your privacy or for your personal data. I think that's something I want to give everybody to think it over and react on. The world has changed, and the world is changing rapidly. So I think it's important that everybody has a role in security, and you can't just say that hey, that's the IT guy. He takes care of my computer and he's responsible. Well, you can outsource all your IT to an external company, but you can't outsource your responsibility over it. So make sure that everything is tested properly and that countermeasures are taken. And that's you have to. It's something you have to do every day. You have to take security seriously.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying, that it's to be taken seriously by everybody in the organization.
Yeah.
Nobody can say, oh, that's not part of my job description. That's not part of my job, because it is part of your job. It's part of everybody's job.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that people need to be way more aware of and made aware of, that it's not just an IT issue. It's an everybody's issue.
Exactly. It's what I said earlier. It's about people, processes, and technology.
Yeah. So people, process, technology, like crystal ball, future proofing. What can we, as business professionals, what can we do next week? Because it's Friday today. So what can we do next week? Just one little step in the right direction. If we do anything, what should we do?
Wow, that's a difficult one. Where can I start? maybe you can get some more understanding of what the security people in your company are doing. So maybe next week, go and have a cup of coffee with your security officer or your data protection officer. And not only people who say you can't do this or you can't do that. No, there's a reason for everything. So maybe you get a little bit more understanding about what they do and who they are.
Yeah, yeah. Now
So just go sit down and talk to each other.
Yeah. Now that's brilliant, because what you don't know can hurt you, and if you sort of push it aside and say, no, that's the security officer or that's the IT person's responsibility, it leaves a gaping hole of risk.
It's not just the guy who always says no.
Or girl.
He can, or girl, sorry. He or she can enable your business. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Peter, thank you so much for your insights and for your experiences around cybersecurity risk management. As I said at the beginning, if people are interested in your viewpoints, and if they want to take you out for coffee, they can find you on LinkedIn. Are you anywhere else on social media that people can reach out to you? How can they get in touch with you?
LinkedIn will be fine. Yeah.
Yep, LinkedIn. Excellent. Well, again, thank you for your time and have a lovely day and stay safe.
The same to you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.